Good evening and welcome back. Come closer to the quiet edge of the night and imagine that you are standing where the high earth leans toward the stars. The mountain beneath you is dark, not empty, but breathing with the slow patience of stone. Far below, valleys lie folded in blue shadow. The wind moves over pine and bare rock, with a voice so old that it seems to remember the first names ever spoken. Above you, the sky is deep and immense, scattered with cold lights, and somewhere, in that height, beyond sight and beyond ordinary thought, the gods of ancient Greece once looked down upon the world. In your hands, or near your resting place, there is a small fire. Not a roaring blaze, not a bright and restless flame, but a patient ember, red at its heart, gold at its rim, pulsing softly, as if it has a secret. It gives just enough warmth to keep the darkness gentle. It gives just enough light to show the outline of your own fingers, the curve of the ground, the faint road that descends toward sleep. Tonight, we follow that ember backward through time. We follow it before hearth and lamp, before bronze blade and baked bread, before the potter hardened clay in a kiln, before the singer warmed a hall with song and smoke. We follow it to the age when fire belonged to heaven, and humankind was still small beneath the wide gaze of the deathless ones. And in that age there was a Titan named Prometheus. His name means forethought, the thought that comes before the deed, the quiet seeing of what may happen if one path is chosen and another left behind. Prometheus was not the strongest of the old powers, nor the loudest, nor the most splendid in battle. He was not a thunderbolt, not a sea storm, not a mountain hurled through the air. He was a watcher. He was a mind turned toward tomorrow. He was the one who looked at a sleeping seed and thought of a forest, who looked at a spark and thought of cities, who looked at frail human hands and thought of all they might one day learn to make. So rest now in the hush before the tale. Let the night take its time. The story of Prometheus is not a story that needs to hurry. It is a story of stone, flame, pride, pity, punishment, and endurance. It is a story of a gift that warmed the world and burned the giver. It is a story of knowledge, which is never only comfort and never only pain. Long before the hearths of human beings glittered across the earth, there had been a war in heaven. The Greeks remembered an age of titans, the elder gods, vast children of earth and sky. Kronos ruled among them, and around him stood the ancient powers, deep and enormous as the first mountains. But from Kronos came a younger generation, and among them Zeus, whose will was sharp as lightning and whose hunger for rule could not be hidden forever. The war between Titans and Olympians was called the Titanomachy, the Battle of the Titans. It shook the unseen foundations of the world. Sea and sky groaned under it. Mountains were said to tremble. The thunder of Zeus answered the old strength of Kronos. The 100-handed ones, released from their dark prison, hurled stones like storms. The Cyclopes forged thunder and gave it into Zeus's hand. Age fought youth. Ancient law fought rising command. At last, the Olympians won. Kronos was overthrown. Many titans were cast down into Tartaros, the deep prison below the earth, a place so far beneath the living world that an anvil falling from heaven would take 9 days and nights to reach the ground, and another 9 to fall from earth to that lower gloom. There, behind bronze gates and layers of night, the defeated powers remained. But not every titan shared the same fate. Prometheus, son of Iapetos, whose name the Greeks spoke for one of the old Titans, had not stood blindly against Zeus. Ancient stories differ in their details, as old stories often do, but they agree in this quiet truth. Prometheus survived the change of rule. He remained in the world after the Great War, moving between the memory of the elder gods and the bright order of Olympos. Olympos was the mountain of the new gods, not merely a peak of stone, but a shining height of power, imagined as cloudless, radiant, and secure. There Zeus sat as king with thunder near his hand. Beside him were Hera, queenly and watchful, Athena with clear grey eyes, Apollo with music and far-shooting light, Artemis of the wild places, Poseidon who shook the sea, Demeter of grain, Hermes of roads and messages, Hephaestus of craft and flame, and the others whose names filled Greek prayer and song. A new order had come, yet new order is never gentle, simply because it is new. Zeus had won the sky, and he meant to keep it. He had seen what fathers might do to sons, and what sons might do to fathers. He had overthrown Kronos, who had swallowed his own children to prevent a prophecy. Zeus knew that power is never entirely at rest. Around his throne, every kindness could look like a bargain, every gift like a threat, every cleverness like rebellion beginning in secret. Prometheus knew this too. He had the dangerous gift of understanding the shape of consequence. Where another might see a feast, Prometheus saw the hunger after it. Where another might see a law, he saw who would suffer beneath it. Where another might see the first spark in dry grass, he saw warmth, cooking, craft, prayer, smoke, weapon, city, wound, and winter survival, all folded together. His brother was Epimetheus. Epimetheus means afterthought, the thought that comes after the deed is done. The two brothers belong together in myth, like evening and morning, like warning and regret. Prometheus looked ahead. Epimetheus understood too late. Prometheus weighed the future. Epimetheus opened the door and only afterward heard the footsteps entering. But do not imagine Epimetheus as only foolish. In old tales, even foolishness is often tenderness without caution. He was open where Prometheus was guarded. He received where Prometheus resisted. He was the heart that says yes before the mind has counted the cost. Prometheus, however, was a different kind of being. He had lived through the fall of the Titans. He had watched Zeus rise. He had seen that strength wins the throne, but thought shapes what happens afterward. Perhaps this is why his eyes turned often toward the earth, where something small and unfinished was waiting. Humankind. The oldest Greek poems do not tell one single fixed story of how humans were made. Myths are like rivers that divide and rejoin. In some traditions, humans arise from the earth through divine will. In others, the ages of humanity unfold like metals, declining from gold to silver, to bronze to iron. But later and beloved traditions gave Prometheus a tender role. They said he shaped human beings from clay and water, bending over the damp earth with hands that knew both patience and grief. Imagine him there in a dawn before memory, kneeling beside a riverbank. The clay is cool, the water darkens it. He presses form from formlessness. Shoulder, brow, palm, throat, the hollow where breath will move, the curve where the eye will open. The earth gives substance and something divine leans near. Perhaps Athena, goddess of wisdom and craft, breathes life into the shaped figures, as some later tellings say. Perhaps Prometheus himself watches until the first chest rises, until the first gaze trembles open upon the sky. What would those first humans have seen? Too much, perhaps. The world was vast and without explanation. Dawn broke like a mystery. Thunder spoke without translation. Night returned each day with its unanswering stars. Animals had fang, claw, fur, speed, wing, shell, scent, and instinct. Human beings had soft skin, uncertain hunger, and hands that could hold but did not yet know what holding was for. Prometheus looked upon them and felt something that the gods did not always feel. Pity, yes, but not pity alone. Pity can look down from a height and remain safe. What moved in Prometheus was closer to kinship. He saw in humans a strange likeness to himself, not in power, but in incompletion. They were not finished by their making, they were creatures of becoming. A wolf is born into the law of wolf, an eagle into the law of eagle, a tree into the patience of tree. But a human being is born into a question. What shall I learn? What shall I build? Whom shall I love? What does the dark mean? Prometheus heard those questions before humans had words for them. At first, the world may have been easier in some ways, as myths sometimes dream of beginnings. The earth gave fruit. The seasons were not yet as cruel. The gods and mortals had not fully drawn the hard line between their tables. But the line was coming, as lines always come when power decides to name its portion. The place was Mecone. At Mecone, gods and mortals gathered to settle the matter of sacrifice. What would human beings give to the deathless gods? What part of the slain animal would rise in smoke to heaven, and what part would remain for mortal need? It may sound like a small question if one hears it only as ritual, but beneath it lay the whole arrangement of the world. Who eats? Who receives honor? Who keeps the strength? Who gets the shining appearance, and who gets the hidden nourishment? Prometheus stood between the sides. He knew Zeus was watching. He knew the new king of gods would not be easily deceived, and yet he also knew that humans needed more than permission to kneel. They needed a way to live. They needed meat for their bodies, and ritual for their fear. They needed to offer without surrendering everything. So Prometheus prepared 2 portions from a great ox. In one portion he placed the good meat and the rich inner parts, the pieces that would feed the hungry. These he hid inside the unattractive stomach of the animal, making the portion look poor, rough, and undesirable. In the other portion he placed the bones, cleaned and white, with little nourishment in them. Over these he spread glossy fat, shining and fragrant, beautiful to the eye, pleasing to the first glance. Like many things that power chooses, because they flatter power's own reflection. Then he invited Zeus to choose. The moment was quiet. Around them, perhaps, humans waited with lowered eyes. Gods watched with immortal stillness. The smoke of early altars drifted upward. Prometheus, whose name was Forethought, had already stepped beyond the present moment and into all the centuries that might follow. If Zeus chose the shining fat, then the gods would receive smoke and gleam, while humans kept the meat that let them survive. Zeus looked at the portions. Some ancient tellings say he saw through the trick at once. Zeus was not simple. He was not a child fooled by a glittering surface. But to see a trap and step into it can be its own kind of anger, a way of accepting the insult so that punishment may be justified afterward. Other tellings let the deception stand more openly. Either way, Zeus chose the white bones wrapped in fat. The bargain was sealed. From that time, the Greeks explained, humans burned the bones and fat for the gods, sending smoke upward while they kept the edible flesh. Every altar became a memory of Mecone. Every sacrifice repeated the old division. To the gods, fragrance and honor. To mortals, the food that sustains the brief body. Prometheus had helped humankind. Zeus was enraged. His anger was not like a shout that passes quickly and leaves the room empty. It was the cold, bright anger of a ruler who has been challenged in public. It gathered itself. It waited. It became policy, decree, weather. If Prometheus would steal advantage for mortals, then Zeus would take from mortals what they most needed. He withheld fire. Think of the world without fire, not merely a world without flame, but a world without cooked grain, without baked clay, without metal drawn from stone, without lamps in winter, without torches on roads, without the smoke that keeps wild animals at a distance, without the glowing center of a house where stories gather and children sleep. A world where night is not softened, where cold has no answer, where raw food hardens the belly, where tools remain simple, where the dead are mourned, without the solemn light of a pyre or a lamp. Human beings suffered. The earth may still have given them food, but not enough. The sun may still have warmed them, but it left each evening. Lightning might strike a tree, but the flame vanished before it could become a companion. The stars were beautiful, but beauty is not always warmth. The moon was a silver witness, not a hearth. Prometheus watched. He saw people huddled in caves and beneath branches. He saw hands cupped around nothing. He saw mothers holding infants close against the cold. He saw hunters return through blue dusk with meat they could not roast. He saw fear moving through every camp at sunset. He saw thought itself trapped, because many thoughts require tools, and many tools require heat. Perhaps he heard the gods feasting above. On Olympos there was radiance, there was nectar and ambrosia, the food and drink of the deathless. There was bronze shining in halls and the undying brightness of divine craft. Hephaestus, the smith god, worked with fire as with a living language. Zeus held lightning. Helios drove the sun across the sky. The heavens had flame in abundance. Below, humans trembled in the dark. Prometheus knew the law. He knew the cost of breaking it. Foresight is not the same as safety. It does not always keep one from suffering. Sometimes it only allows one to enter suffering with open eyes. He chose. The theft of fire is told in different ways. Some say Prometheus stole it from the workshop of Hephaestus, where the divine smith shaped marvelous things amid sparks and ringing bronze. Some say he stole it from the very hearth of Olympos. Some say he touched the chariot of the sun, taking from that golden wheel a fragment of heavenly heat. The old myth does not need one door, because the truth of the act is larger than the door by which it happened. Imagine him moving through the divine night. Olympos is quiet but not sleeping. Gods do not sleep as mortals do. Their stillness is full of awareness. Cloud lies below the bright courts. The air is thin and clear. Columns gleam faintly. Somewhere, a sacred flame burns with a center too bright for mortal eyes. It is not merely heat, it is possibility. Prometheus carries a hollow fennel stalk. The fennel plant, tall and pithy, can hide a coal within its stem, protecting the spark while keeping it alive. This small detail is one of the most beautiful in the myth. The gift that changes human destiny is not carried in a golden chest, not in a thunderous weapon, not in a jewel. It is carried in a plant stem, a humble tube from the living earth, a secret cradle for a coal. Prometheus takes the fire, no trumpet sounds, no army marches. The greatest theft in the human story begins as a hidden glow, a coal tucked into fennel, a hand closed around danger, a titan turning away from the halls of the gods and descending toward the cold world. Down he comes through cloud and height. The ember breathes in the stalk. It is fragile. It could die if neglected. It could spread if freed too soon. It is like every difficult gift. It must be guarded, carried carefully, given wisely, and then watched, because what saves can also consume. Prometheus reaches the earth. Perhaps the first humans gather without understanding. They see only his face in the dark, the tall figure of the Titan, the strange red light hidden near his hand. Perhaps they are afraid. Perhaps they fall silent. Perhaps a child, less afraid than the rest, leans forward to see. Then the fennel opens. A spark touches dry fibre. A thread of smoke rises. A little flame appears, bends, nearly vanishes, then takes. It grows along the kindling. It finds twig and bark. It becomes orange, then gold, then a small living crown of light. Human faces change. For the first time, night withdraws from the center of the circle. Eyes shine, hands reach out, then pull back from the heat. Someone laughs in wonder, someone weeps. Someone places a piece of meat near the flame and smells it change. Someone lifts clay and feels how warmth hardens it. Someone watches sparks rise and thinks of stars close enough to touch. The first hearth is born. Around it, the world becomes different. Fire does not remove darkness from the world, but it gives darkness an edge. It draws a boundary. Here is warmth, here is gathering, here is a place to return to. Outside, the night may be wide, but inside the ring of firelight, human beings begin to speak differently. Their stories lengthen, their tools improve, their dead are remembered with ritual. Their children learn to look into flame and imagine. Prometheus had not given them comfort only, he had given them the beginning of craft. And craft is a kind of restlessness. Once the hand learns to shape, it cannot forget. Once the mind learns that nature may be transformed, it begins to ask what else can be changed. Fire cooks, but it also smelts. It warms, but it also warns. It lights a home, but it can also burn one. Prometheus gave humanity a gift that required responsibility before humanity fully knew what responsibility was. This is why the myth remains powerful. It does not say that knowledge is simple. It does not say that progress is pure. It does not say that the gods were merely cruel and mortals merely innocent. It says that warmth has a price. It says that to become more human is to become more capable of both care and harm. It says that the first light in the dark comes with a shadow. And on Olympos, Zeus saw the lights below. Imagine the king of gods looking out from his height and seeing points of flame where no flame should be. One hearth, then another, as if the stars had begun to fall upward from the earth. The night beneath Olympos was no longer obedient. Mortals, who had been cold and dependent, now held a fragment of divine power in their hands. Zeus knew who had done it. His answer came in two directions, one toward humankind, one toward Prometheus. For humankind, the myth tells of Pandora. Her name can mean all gifted, or she who receives all gifts. The gods shaped her with great care. Hephaestos formed her from earth and water, giving her a beautiful human shape. Athena clothed her and taught her skill. Aphrodite gave charm. Hermes gave a subtle and persuasive mind. The Graces adorned her. Each god contributed something, and the gift became radiant. But radiance in Greek myth is not always mercy. Pandora was sent to Prometheus, the brother whose name means afterthought. Prometheus had warned him not to accept gifts from Zeus. But warning is a fragile fence when beauty, loneliness, and divine intention arrive together. Prometheus received her. In later imagination, Pandora carries a box, but in the older Greek telling, it is a jar, a large storage vessel, the kind that might hold grain, oil, wine, or buried secrets. The jar is opened, and from it come the troubles that cling to mortal life: toil, sickness, grief, age, painful uncertainty, the many forms of sorrow that make human days heavy. Yet hope remains. Some say hope stayed trapped within the jar, withheld from humans. Some say hope was preserved there for them, kept from flying away with the rest. The myth does not settle this gently for us. Hope itself is double. It comforts and it deceives. It keeps the weary alive, and it can keep them waiting in pain. It is a small light, and sometimes a veil. For a sleep story, we can hold it softly. Let hope be the last quiet thing at the bottom of the jar, not loud, not triumphant, not a promise that all wounds vanish, but a small remaining ember. After Pandora, human life is no longer simple. It is work and birth, hunger and harvest, love and mourning, illness and healing, expectation and loss. But within it, there is still the capacity to rise in the morning, to light the hearth again, to tell a child that dawn is coming. Pandora is not the villain of this night. She's part of the sorrowful machinery of divine retaliation, made beautiful and dangerous by powers larger than herself. She enters the human story as many gifts enter, carrying what is desired and what is feared in the same hands. Through her, the myth speaks of the complexity of life after fire. Humans gain skill but not ease. They gain warmth but not immunity. They gain knowledge but not escape from suffering. For Prometheus, Zeus prepared a different punishment. Far away, at the edge of the Greek imagination, rose the Caucasus Mountains. To the ancient mind, this was a remote and severe place, a boundary of the known world, where cliffs touched the cold sky and winds travelled without kindness. There, Zeus ordered Prometheus to be bound. Hephaestus, the divine smith, is often the one who fastens the chains, though some tellings include Kratos and Bia, power and force, servants of Zeus. Hephaestus does not relish the work. The smith knows fire. He knows craft. He may understand more than others what Prometheus has given away, but the command of Zeus is heavy, and even a god may become an instrument in another's will. So Prometheus is bound to the rock, not in a dark cell, not hidden from the world, but exposed to sky, wind, snow, sun, and the turning stars. The mountain becomes his prison, the horizon becomes his wall. His body is held, but his mind remains vast, moving forward into futures others cannot see. Each day, an eagle comes. We will not linger on pain. This is a story for night, and night asks us to speak gently. Let the eagle be a shadow with wings, the sign of Zeus's anger returning again and again. Let it cross the sun. Let its cry vanish in the wind. Let Prometheus endure what the myth says he endured, without our needing to open the wound in detail. The important thing is the repetition. Punishment in this myth is not a single blow. It is time itself turned against the sufferer. Morning after morning, the same shadow. Evening after evening, the same cold. The rock remains. The chains remain. The sky changes color, but does not release him. Prometheus, who gave humans fire, is denied the simplest comforts of fire. No hearth warms him, no lamp keeps him company, no cooked meal, no house smoke, no circle of voices, no child learning the shape of flame. He's placed above the world he helped, able perhaps to see the distant glimmer of human fires at night, but unable to sit beside them. There is a deep sadness in that image. The giver of warmth held in cold, the bringer of craft held helpless, the foreseer fixed in one place, the friend of mortals made lonely beneath the immortal sky. Yet Prometheus does not repent in the simple way Zeus might wish. In the tragedy attributed to Aeschylus called Prometheus Bound, he speaks with fierce dignity. He names the arts he gave to humans, number, letters, the yoking of animals, ships, medicine, signs from dreams, the reading of omens, the use of fire for every craft. He claims to have turned mortals away from seeing their own death too clearly. He placed blind hopes in them, he says, and gave them fire, blind hopes. The phrase is troubling and tender. To live as a mortal is to know death is coming, but not its hour. If we saw the end with perfect clarity, perhaps we could not plant a tree, raise a child, build a house, or begin a song. Prometheus gives not only fire but a merciful veil, enough uncertainty for courage to grow. So he hangs between truth and comfort, between knowledge and kindness. Seasons pass, snow gathers in the crevices of the Caucasus, spring loosens it into silver threads of water. Summer burns the stone. Autumn brings a thin and bitter gold to whatever lonely grasses root in the cracks. The eagle's shadow comes and goes. Clouds wrap the peak and unwrap it. Stars wheel overhead in their ancient paths. Below, human beings learn. They learn to keep coals alive beneath ash. They learn to carry flame from one camp to another. They learn that green wood smokes and dry wood sings. They learn to bake bread on stones, to warm milk, to harden spear tips, to blacken the outside of pots, to make offerings with fragrant smoke. They learn that fire must be fed but not overfed, respected but not feared into uselessness. Every human hearth becomes a small answer to Zeus, not a shout, not a war cry, simply a persistence, a mother placing a pot over coals, an old man warming his hands, a child asleep while sparks rise, a traveller seeing firelight at the far end of a road and knowing there may be shelter. Prometheus remains. The gods are not all indifferent. Other beings pass through the story. The daughters of Okeanos, the Oceanids, come in some versions to mourn with him, their voices soft as water. Okeanos himself advises compromise. Hermes arrives as messenger of Zeus, demanding that Prometheus reveal a secret prophecy, a knowledge that threatens the future of Zeus's rule. Prometheus refuses. Here again is foresight as danger. Prometheus knows something Zeus wants to know. He knows of a possible union that could produce a son greater than his father, a pattern Zeus fears because he himself fulfilled such a pattern against Kronos and Kronos against Uranos. In myth, power is haunted by repetition. Every king hears footsteps behind him. Prometheus keeps the secret. He is bound, but not empty. He is suffering, but not conquered. His refusal becomes another fire, invisible, but unextinguished. One day, another wanderer comes near the mountain. Her name is Io. Io was a mortal woman loved by Zeus and tormented by Hera's jealousy. In the old story, she is transformed into a cow and driven across the earth by a stinging gadfly, restless, unable to remain, crossing lands and waters in a long anguish of motion. For our quiet telling, let her appear as a figure of wandering sorrow, a soul pursued by forces she did not choose, exhausted beneath the same wide sky that holds Prometheus. She comes to the place of chains. Prometheus sees her. He knows her story, and more than her story, he knows what lies ahead. To someone in pain, the future can be a frightening gift. Too much knowledge may deepen despair. Yet Prometheus speaks not to wound her, but to place her suffering within a larger road. He tells her that her wandering will not be endless. She will pass through many lands. The sea that bears her memory will be called the Ionian. In later imagination, she will reach Egypt. From her line in generations far beyond her own tired feet will come a child and a lineage, and from that lineage, one day, the hero who will set Prometheus free. That hero is Herakles. Herakles is the Greek name for the figure many later call Hercules in the Roman way. In this story, it is gentle to use the Greek name, because we are walking among Greek mountains and Greek gods. Herakles is not yet present when Io hears of him. He is only a promise hidden in time, a distant strength unborn. Imagine what it means to hear such a prophecy while suffering. Not that the pain is unreal, not that the road is easy, not that tomorrow will suddenly be kind, but that the road is not meaningless, that even wandering may carry a thread through generations, that the future is wider than the present wound. Io goes on, Prometheus remains. The mountain returns to silence, but silence in myth is never empty. It is full of waiting. Prometheus waits through ages, and the human world below grows complicated around the gift he gave. Fire enters every room of civilization. It glows in temples, where priests watch the smoke climb toward gods who may or may not be merciful. It roars in forges, where bronze and iron soften under the hammer. It warms bathhouses and bakeries. It hardens bricks. It clears fields. It guides ships by beacon. It destroys when careless hands or cruel orders turn it loose. The gift cannot be ungiven. This, too, Zeus must learn. A spark once placed into human history does not return obediently to heaven. Knowledge spreads from hand to hand. One person learns to bank coal, another to make charcoal, another to melt ore, another to shape a plough, another to fire a tile that keeps rain from a roof. The divine monopoly has been broken not by an army, but by transmission. Transmission is a quiet miracle. A grandmother shows a child how to lean close without burning herself. A potter shows an apprentice when the clay has dried enough. A healer warms a blade, steeps herbs, watches steam rise. A sailor follows a lighthouse flame. A poet looks into a lamp and finds a metaphor for the soul. Prometheus, on the mountain, cannot visit these places, yet each of them is connected to him. Not because humans remember his name every time they strike a spark, but because the myth remembers for them. Myths hold gratitude when daily life forgets. They say this ordinary warmth was once impossible. This lamp beside your bed was once a theft from the gods. This bread was once a dream inside cold grain. This story being told in the night travels by the light Prometheus carried. Still, the story is not only gratitude, it is also warning. Fire is appetite. It asks for fuel. It grows if fed. It leaps if neglected. It can purify and ruin, comfort and devour, reveal and blind. Knowledge is like that. Craft is like that. Civilization is like that. Prometheus gives humans the power to become more than helpless, but not the wisdom automatically to use power well. Perhaps that is why Prometheus is punished so severely. Zeus fears not merely the insult, but the change. Before fire, humans are poor and dependent. After fire, they are poor, dependent, and dangerous, but also creative, prayerful, inventive, stubborn, and difficult to rule completely. A warm creature can dream longer. A creature with tools can resist. A creature who gathers at night around flame can remember, and memory is the beginning of identity. So the little fires multiply. In one valley, smoke rises from a roof hole into winter air. In another, olive wood glows beneath a pot of lentils. On an island, pitch flames in a harbour brazier. In a palace, torches shine on painted walls. In a shepherd's hut, embers keep wolves beyond the fold. In a sanctuary, a sacred flame is tended by careful hands. In a workshop, sparks scatter like brief stars across the floor. Above it all, the gods continue. Zeus still thunders, Hera still watches, Athena still guides the clever hand, Apollo still draws music from the lyre, Artemis still moves through moonlit groves, Poseidon still lifts and breaks the sea, Demeter still grieves and returns with grain, Hermes still crosses thresholds, Hephaestus still hammers in divine heat, and Prometheus still endures. There is a loneliness that belongs only to those who have acted for the future. They may never sit among the people they saved. They may be misunderstood by the very lives they made possible. They may watch the gift become tangled in uses they did not intend. They may see gratitude fade into habit. Prometheus' name survives because the Greeks knew this loneliness. They knew that forethought is heavy. To see ahead is not to escape grief. Sometimes it is to meet grief first. Sometimes the one who understands the coming winter is the one who cannot enjoy the last warm day. Sometimes the one who carries fire must accept the burn, yet he is not only tragic, he is stubbornly luminous, even chained. Prometheus belongs to flame, not the leaping flame of triumph, but the coal that refuses to go dark. He is not free, but he is not spiritually obedient. He does not become Zeus's praise singer. He does not say that compassion was foolish. He does not curse humankind for the cost of loving them. Ages pass, and the prophecy moves. The line of Io continues. Generations rise and vanish like sparks from a hearth. Kings are born, children are hidden, wanderers cross seas, women carry names through danger, men boast and fall, cities build walls and lose them. Far down the winding thread comes Herakles, son of Zeus and Alcmene, a hero of enormous strength and enormous suffering. Herakles is not a simple rescuer from a bright tale. He is burdened by madness, labor, guilt, and command. He performs the famous labors, facing the Nemean lion, the Hydra, the hind of Kerinea, the boar of Erymanthos, the stables of Algaeus, the birds of Stymphalos, the bull of Crete, the mares of Diomedes, the belt of Hippolyta, the cattle of Geryon, the apples of the Hesperides, and the hound of the underworld. Around these labors gather many journeys, and in some traditions, one of those journeys brings him near the Caucasus. The mountain has waited. The chains have waited. The eagle's shadow has crossed and crossed again. Then Herakles comes. Imagine him not as a sudden crash in the night, but as a tired strength climbing into thin air. His bow is with him. His lion's skin moves in the wind. He has known monsters, kings, madness, exile, and command. He is the son of Zeus, yet not sheltered from pain. Perhaps this matters. Perhaps only someone touched by both divine blood and mortal suffering can understand the figure on the rock. Prometheus sees him and knows. Foresight recognizes fulfillment. The old prophecy, once spoken to wandering Io, arrives at last in muscle, breath, and footsteps on stone. Herakles lifts his bow, the eagle's reign ends. The shadow that returned day after day no longer returns. Again, let us keep the telling gentle. The meaning is enough. The torment ceases. The chains are broken or loosened. In some accounts, Zeus permits the release because it serves fate and fame. Herakles, his son, gains glory. Prometheus, who knows the secret of Zeus's danger, may eventually be reconciled enough to reveal it. A token remains in some traditions, a ring of iron with a stone from the Caucasus, so that Prometheus is still symbolically bound, satisfying the old decree in a softened form. Myth often resolves in this way, not by erasing the past, but by changing the terms of the bond. The punishment leaves a mark. The law is not simply forgotten, yet the living being steps forward. Prometheus is no longer fixed to the mountain. The world he warmed has changed, and he changes with it. What did freedom feel like to him? The myth does not give us a private diary of the Titan's heart, so we imagine carefully, without forcing too much light into the sorrow. Perhaps he first felt the absence of repetition, no returning shadow, no fixed hour of dread. Perhaps he felt the weight of his own arms as they lowered from the rock. Perhaps he felt wind not as a torment but as weather. Perhaps the horizon, once a wall, became a road again. Perhaps he looked down and saw the fires of humankind, so many now, so many that the night below seemed netted with stars, some in palaces, some in huts, some in watchtowers, some in temples, some beside graves, some in secret places where the frightened kept one another warm. Some used wisely, some used badly, all of them part of the long consequence he had chosen. Did he regret it? A lesser story would answer quickly. It would say, no, never, and make him simple. Or it would say, yes, entirely, and make the gift a mistake. But the myth of Prometheus is older and deeper than that. It allows contradiction. He may have grieved what humans did with fire, he may have mourned burned fields, forged weapons, smoke over ruined cities, and the fever of ambition. He may have seen that knowledge does not make the heart good by itself. He may have understood that every gift enters a broken world and becomes mixed with brokenness, and still, he may have loved the hearth. He may have loved the bread pulled from the oven, the lamp set beside a sickbed, the bronze tool that cuts grain, the kiln that makes a water jar, the torch that guides a lost traveller, the funeral flame that honours the dead, the candle before a household shrine, the story told to children while winter presses against the door. Both can be true. This is the great sleep of wisdom, not the sleep of forgetting. To rest well, we do not need the world to be simple. We need to let its complexity settle into a shape the heart can hold for a while. Prometheus teaches that compassion may be costly, that power may resent generosity, that knowledge may wound, and that warmth is still worth tending. The gods of Greece are not distant moral examples carved from perfect marble. They are stormy, hungry, beautiful, jealous, radiant, and strange. Zeus is king, but not always gentle. Prometheus is a benefactor, but not without cunning. Humans are victims, but not without danger. Pandora is a gift, a warning, and a sorrow, but not a simple blame. Herakles is a hero, but not untouched by suffering. Io is a wanderer, but not without future. This is why the myth feels like night. Night holds many things at once. It holds fear and rest. It holds stars and uncertainty. It hides the road, but reveals the fire. In daylight, we may demand clear borders. In darkness, we learn to sit near small warmth and listen. Before the final quiet, let the tale open once more, slowly, like a coal stirred under ash, and let us look at the faces around Prometheus's gift. There is the face of Zeus, bright with sovereignty. In Greek imagination, Zeus is not only anger, he is also the guardian of oaths, the protector of guests, the sender of rain, the gatherer of clouds. Farmers pray for his weather, kings claim his order, strangers are sheltered under his law, yet the same God who protects the guest can punish the thief of divine fire. The same hand that gives rain can hold lightning. This is part of the ancient vision. Power is many-sided, and the sky that nourishes the field can also split the oak. There is the face of Athena, thoughtful and clear. If she breathed life into clay, as some later tellings imagine, then she stands near the beginning of human intelligence. She loves craft, strategy, weaving, measured speech, and the wisdom of the hand guided by the mind. Fire belongs to her world too, because no craft matures without heat. In the glow of Prometheus' gift, Athena's arts become possible among mortals. Loom weights baked hard, spear points shaped, oil lamps made, cities planned by people who can work after dusk. There is the face of Hephaistos, smoky and patient. He is the divine smith, sometimes mocked among the gods for his lameness, yet indispensable to their splendor. He makes palaces, chains, tripods that move by themselves, shields bright with worlds. When he binds Prometheus, the act is full of sorrow. Craft is made to create, not only to imprison. The smith who knows flame must fasten the fire thief to stone. In that tension, the myth understands something deep. The same skill that frees can also bind, according to the will that commands it. There is Prometheus, standing in the doorway of consequence. His afterthought is not alien to us. Every human life knows him. We speak too soon. We accept what should have been questioned. We open the jar, answer the message, take the road, trust the face, ignore the warning. Only later does understanding arrive, carrying its small lamp through the rooms of what has already happened. Prometheus lives in us when we pause. Epimetheus lives in us when we learn too late. Both brothers are part of the human mind. And there is Pandora. Let her be seen without cruelty. She is formed in a world of male divine strategy, then blamed for the arrival of pain. But a gentler telling can notice that she too is made, sent, and used. She carries gifts she did not choose, and a jar whose burden is larger than one person. Her curiosity, if that is what opens the vessel, is not foreign to the fire Prometheus gave. Curiosity opens jars and skies, doors and wounds, books and futures. It releases trouble, but it also releases understanding. Without curiosity, no one would lift the first coal to dry wood. Without curiosity, no one would ask what lies beyond the next hill or why the stars return. So the myth does not need to be flattened into blame. It can be held as a dark mirror of awakening. Fire comes, trouble comes, hope remains. Mortals become more alive and more exposed. The old simplicity, if it ever existed, is gone. In its place comes history. History is made of hearths. A village begins where people can remain through cold months. A field expands where brush can be cleared. A feast begins when raw grain becomes bread. and raw flesh becomes food shared in peace. A law begins when people gather after sunset and remember what was promised. A poem begins when someone watches flame bend and thinks of longing. A city begins when many hearths learn to breathe under one smoke. The Greeks knew the sacredness of the hearth through Hestia, the quiet goddess of the central flame. Hestia does not stride through many dramatic myths. She does not rage across battlefields or cross the sea in disguise. She remains. She is the center that makes arrival meaningful. In every home, in every public hearth of the city, her presence says that fire is not only stolen power, it is also order, welcome, and continuity. Prometheus steals the spark, but Hestia teaches it to stay. That is another soft truth. A gift may arrive in a dangerous, brilliant moment, but life depends on tending it afterward. The stolen coal must become a hearth. The hearth must become a habit. The habit must become care. Otherwise, the gift dies or destroys. In this way, the story of Prometheus moves from defiance into responsibility. At first, we may love the theft because it feels brave. A lone Titan against the Thunder King, a secret coal hidden in fennel. The cold world suddenly warmed. But as the night deepens, we may love something quieter. The daily keeping of the flame. The person who rises before dawn to stir ash and find a living coal. The hands that add fuel slowly. The watcher who never leaves flame unattended. The old instruction given to the young. Respect it, feed it, do not play carelessly with it, do not fear it so much that you freeze. This is how knowledge should be kept. Not hoarded like Zeus's fire before the theft. Not scattered wildly like sparks in dry grass, kept, shared, watched, and joined to mercy. Prometheus's foresight is sometimes imagined as rebellion, but it is also care extended through time. He cares not only for the person standing in front of him, but for the grandchild of that person, and the unknown stranger after that, and the city not yet founded, and the song not yet sung. Forethought is love stretched forward. That kind of love can be lonely. The one who thinks ahead may be called difficult. The one who warns may be unwelcome at the feast. The one who sees the hidden bone beneath the shining fat may spoil the glittering moment. Prometheus knows this loneliness. He knows that truth can make a person stand slightly apart from the celebration, hearing thunder where others hear music. Yet without such seeing, the future becomes a room entered blind. So in the myth, Prometheus takes on the loneliness of foresight. He acts before gratitude can exist. He suffers before the full value of his gift is understood. He becomes, in a sense, the first witness to human possibility. Imagine the first winter after fire. Snow lies heavy on the ground. The trees are black lines against a white world. Breath appears in the air. In a cave or hut, humans gather around flame. Outside, cold has erased scent and softened sound. Inside, a child sees sparks lift and vanish. An elder tells how the Great One came with hidden fire. Someone feeds the flame carefully, as if feeding a small animal. Someone else sleeps at last without shivering. Prometheus cannot enter that circle, but the circle exists because of him. Imagine the first kiln. Clay vessels stand near heat, and what was soft becomes durable. A jar can hold grain against famine, a cup can carry water, a lamp can hold oil. The earth itself, shaped and fired, becomes a servant of memory. Perhaps one day a jar like this will hold the troubles of Pandora. Perhaps another will hold olives, wine, or the ashes of the dead. Fire gives clay a second life. Imagine the first metal. Stone with hidden brightness is placed in heat. The ore changes. Something runs, glows, and hardens again. A tool is born from the marriage of earth and flame. With it, a field can be opened, a tree cut, a house joined, a weapon made. Every advancement brings a question beside it. What will the hand do with the new strength? What will the heart permit? The fire does not answer. It only reveals what may be done. Imagine the first lamp kept through illness. A person lies weak, breathing unevenly. The room is dark, except for oil flame. Someone sits nearby, refusing to let the sick one be alone. The lamp cannot cure all things, it cannot command life to remain, but it gives the watcher a small circle in which to love. It makes care visible. In that flame, Prometheus's gift becomes tenderness. Imagine the first funeral fire, no horror, only solemnity. The living gather to honor the one who has gone beyond reach. Flame lifts what was loved into smoke and memory. It gives shape to farewell. It lets grief act, because grief needs actions, not only tears. The fire that cooks bread also helps the living release the dead. Again the gift is double, and again its doubleness is sacred. Through all these scenes, the Titan remains on the mountain, and the question remains with him: was it worth the pain? Perhaps the answer changes depending on where one stands. From Olympos, the theft is disorder. From the frozen valley, it is mercy. From the battlefield, fire may look like a curse. From the sickbed, it may look like devotion. From the forge, it is skill. From the burned field, it is grief. From the winter hut, it is survival. Myth does not force one answer, because fire itself refuses one meaning. This is why Prometheus is not simply the patron of comfort. He is the patron of difficult awakening. He belongs to every moment when a gift makes life larger and more dangerous at the same time. Writing is like that. Medicine is like that. Sailing beyond known coasts is like that. The power to remember is like that. Even love is like that, because love warms the life and makes it vulnerable. Zeus, too, changes in the long arc. At the beginning, he is the new ruler defending his supremacy. At Mecone, he is insulted. After the theft, he strikes back. On the Caucasus, his anger becomes an age. But by the time Herakles arrives, the order of things has shifted. Zeus can permit what he once forbade, because power that survives long enough sometimes learns to absorb what it cannot undo. The king of gods does not cease to be king because humans have fire. The sky remains above. Thunder remains thunder, but the earth below has become more articulate. This is an old political dream hidden inside a sacred tale. Authority may command, but life finds ways to receive what it needs. The mountain may hold a prisoner, but not the meaning of his act. A chain can bind a body. It cannot recall a spark once taught to burn in 1,000 homes. The eagle's shadow then becomes a reminder of consequence, not the final word. It passes over Prometheus for a long time. It darkens his days. It marks the severity of divine law. But shadows depend on light. Without the sun, the eagle has no shape upon the stone. Without Prometheus's inner fire, punishment would be only suffering, not witness. The shadow is real, and so is the light that lets us see it. When Herakles ends that shadow, the story does not become cheerful in a simple way. It becomes spacious. The long punishment is acknowledged. The release is earned by time, prophecy, courage, and the strange negotiations of fate. Nothing is erased, yet something opens. For sleep This matters. Many people come tonight carrying their own small chains, unfinished tasks, old words, regrets, worries about tomorrow, memories that return like birds across the same sky. A myth cannot break all chains, but it can loosen the mind's grip on them. It can say, even long endurance is not the whole story. Even a punishment that feels like weather may change, even a shadow that returns can one day fail to return. The Greeks placed such hope far away, often beyond a hard road. They did not make it cheap. Io wanders before her line brings Herakles. Prometheus waits before release. Humans work after receiving fire. Hope remains at the bottom of the jar, not floating easily above it, but it remains. And sometimes that is enough for night. Let us return again to the fennel stalk. It is such a small vessel for such a great turning. A hollow stem, dry and ordinary, holding a coal from the gods. There is wisdom in that image for any tired heart. Great change does not always arrive as a blaze. Sometimes it must be carried secretly, protected from wind, hidden inside something humble. A thought, a habit, a sentence, a promise to try again, a little warmth no one else sees yet. Prometheus does not descend with the sun in his arms. He descends with a coal. A coal is enough. From a coal comes a flame. From a flame comes a hearth. From a hearth comes a home. From a home comes memory. From memory comes story. From story comes the chance that suffering will not be meaningless, because someone will speak it, hear it, and carry it onward with care. This is what we are doing now. We are sitting near the ancient coal, letting the story warm the dark without needing to solve it. The names pass softly. Prometheus, forethought. Epimetheus, afterthought. Zeus, the Sky King. Mecone, the place of divided sacrifice. Olympos, the shining height. Pandora, all gifted and sorrow-bearing. Io, the wanderer. Caucasus, the lonely mountain edge. Herakles, the strong one who arrives late, but not too late. Each name is a little stone placed on the path. Follow them slowly, and the path descends from myth into rest. There is no need to decide tonight whether Prometheus was right in every way or Zeus wrong in every way. Let the old gods keep their arguments above the cloud. Let scholars compare Hesiod, Aeschylus, and later traditions in the bright rooms of morning. Here, in the softer country of sleep, it is enough to feel the shape of the tale. Cold earth, hidden coal, first flame, divine anger, lonely rock, long endurance, wandering sorrow, distant hero, released chain, ember at the end. The shape is ancient and it is human. We know cold, we know gifts, we know consequences, we know the wish to help and the fear of cost, we know the pain of being misunderstood, we know the comfort of small light. That is why a myth from so long ago can still enter a modern room and sit quietly beside the bed. It does not need belief in the old, literal sense. It needs only attention. Attention is another kind of flame. It lights what it rests upon. When you attend to a story, the story becomes present. When you attend to breath, breath becomes a shore. When you attend to warmth, warmth becomes enough. So attend now only to warmth. The great events are behind us. The Titan has climbed and stolen. Zeus has seen and punished. Pandora has opened the jar. Io has wandered onward. Herakles has come. The eagle's shadow has thinned into memory. The human fires have spread across the valleys of time. Nothing more is required. The ember near you gives its low red light. It does not ask to be understood. It simply offers what it has. A little heat, a little color, a place for the eyes to rest before they close. Prometheus, if we imagine him beyond his punishment, might understand this quiet better than anyone. After the long violence of exposure, perhaps peace would not be a feast or a triumph. Perhaps peace would be sitting near a modest fire unchained, with no command to answer, no wing crossing the sun, no thunder demanding apology. Perhaps peace would be the right to be warmed by the very gift for which he suffered. Let him have that. In the kindness of our telling, let the Titan sit at last, beside a hearth at the edge of the world. Let the flames be low. Let the night be mild. Let human voices rise nearby, not praising loudly, not begging, simply living. Let bread bake. Let an old song move through the room. Let a child sleep with one hand open. Let Prometheus watch the glow on mortal faces and see, not perfection, but enough goodness to answer the pain. Let Zeus remain on Olympos, older now in his kingship, hearing the prayers of people who cook their offerings before they burn the bones and fat. Let the smoke rise as it always has since Mecone, a compromise, a memory, a trace of the old trick. Let the gods receive their portion. Let mortals receive theirs. Let the world continue in its uneasy balance, and let hope remain in the jar, not as a bright banner, but as a small stored warmth. Hope does not need to shout. It can wait quietly at the bottom of things. It can be found late. It can be misunderstood. It can be taken out carefully, like a coal preserved overnight and placed beneath tomorrow's kindling. That is enough. So listen now to the last quiet movements of the tale. After Prometheus is freed, fire remains with humankind. It does not fly back to Olympos. Zeus does not gather every spark and lock it in the sky. The world has crossed a threshold. Mortals will always be the creatures who warm themselves with stolen heaven. Every flame is a memory of trespass. Every hearth is a little rebellion against cold. Every lamp says that darkness is real but not complete. In the ancient house, the hearth was not just a tool, it was a center. Families gathered around it, guests were received near it, oaths were heard by it, food changed over it, ash collected beneath it like grey memory. To leave home was to leave one fire, and to be welcomed was to be invited near another. Think of how softly this changes the meaning of Prometheus's gift. He did not merely give technology, he gave a center around which tenderness could organize itself. Without fire, people can still huddle together, but with fire they can make a room of light inside the dark. They can cook for one another. They can wait through winter. They can keep vigil beside the sick. They can watch over the dead. They can speak after sunset when labor is done and the mind opens to memory. Story itself belongs to fire. The first myths may have taken shape in the shifting glow of embers, when faces appeared and vanished, when shadows of hands moved on cave walls or hut walls, when children asked why thunder speaks, why seasons turn, why people die, why stars do not fall, why the gods are beautiful and cruel. Fire gave time to these questions. It lengthened the evening. It made imagination visible. So if you are listening now in darkness, with a screen dimmed, a room quiet, perhaps a lamp somewhere nearby, you are still inside the circle Prometheus opened. Not literally, perhaps. The world has changed beyond anything an ancient singer could have pictured, but at the center remains the old human act, a mind in the dark, receiving a story by a controlled light. The ember near you is small. Let it be small. Not every light must become a blaze. Some lights are meant only to keep company. The ember does not conquer the mountain. It does not argue with the stars. It simply glows, steady enough for breathing, soft enough for sleep. Prometheus's fire has travelled through ages to become this quiet. It has passed through altars and forges, through kitchens and ship lanterns, through watchfires on city walls, through monastery lamps and scholar candles, through the blue flame under a kettle, through the unseen circuits that carry modern light. It has been sacred, ordinary, dangerous, domestic, brilliant, and humble. It has never been only one thing. Neither are you. You carry warmth and shadow, knowledge and uncertainty, memory and hope. You have your own small fires to tend, a kindness, a craft, a promise, a question, a reason to rise tomorrow. You do not need to solve the whole darkness tonight. You do not need to climb Olympos. You do not need to wrestle thunder from the hand of Zeus. For now, it is enough to keep one ember alive. Breathe slowly. The mountain wind has softened. The eagle is only a shape far away, dissolving into the last blue of evening. The chains of old iron broken and quiet. Io has reached the next shore. Herakles has gone on along his difficult road. Pandora's jar rests in the house of myth, and at its bottom, hope remains like a coal under ash. Prometheus is no longer only the sufferer on the rock. He is the memory of the first warmth placed into mortal hands. He is the foresight that grieves and gives anyway. He is the courage to share what power would hoard. He is the knowledge that every flame must be tended, and every gift must be answered with care. The night deepens. Below the mountain, human fires burn in the valleys. Each one is a little star that chose to live near the ground. Smoke rises slowly and disappears into the dark. Somewhere bread cools on a stone. Somewhere a traveller finds shelter. Somewhere a child sleeps while an elder watches the coals. Somewhere a story ends, and because it ends gently, sleep can begin. Let the ember grow softer now, not gone, only softer. A red heart beneath grey ash, a quiet warmth cupped by the dark. The old Titan's gift, no longer fierce, no longer stolen in haste, but resting here with you as the night gathers itself around the world. If thoughts come, let them pass like sparks rising from a hearth. If worries speak, let them become smoke and thin into the rafters of the mind. If the day still clings to you, let it loosen, as Prometheus' chains loosened at last. Stone releases, wind releases, the long story releases. You are not at the beginning of the world tonight. You are here, in a later age, held by ordinary shelter and a small inherited light. Outside, the vast dark remains vast. Above it, the stars remain cold and beautiful, but near you there is warmth enough, and that is all the fire needs to say. There is another way to think of the stolen fire, quieter than rebellion and older than pride. It is the beginning of human time. Before fire, days belong almost entirely to the sun. Dawn says begin, dusk says stop, night closes over labour like a lid. But with fire, evening opens a chamber of its own. The hours after sunset become usable, speakable, memorable. People can mend a net, scrape a hide, polish a tool, nurse a child, sing to the anxious, count what was gathered, plan what must be done when morning returns. Fire does not defeat time, but it folds time differently. It gives mortals a small golden room inside the dark. This is why Zeus's anger carries such weight. The theft does not merely warm cold fingers. It changes the rhythm of mortal life. It gives humans more hours in which to become themselves. More hours for gratitude, yes, and more hours for schemes. More hours for tenderness, and more for ambition. A god who rules from the sky might look down and see not just flames, but 1,000 little extensions of will. Prometheus has lengthened the human evening. In that lengthened evening, memory deepens. People speak of who was born, who died, who travelled, who betrayed, who forgave. They remember the shapes of animals and draw them. They remember the course of rivers and teach it. They remember which herbs soothe pain, which berries harm, which stones spark, which woods burn clean. Knowledge, warmed by repetition, becomes tradition. Tradition is fire in another form. It must be passed carefully. If no one receives it, it goes out. If it is guarded too jealously, others freeze. If it is thrown without care, it burns. The best keepers of tradition are not those who lock the flame away, but those who teach another hand how to tend it. Prometheus, then, is present whenever one generation helps the next survive more wisely. He is there when a parent teaches a child not to touch the flame, then later teaches the same child how to light one. He is there when an apprentice learns the heat of metal by colour, not by command alone. He is there when a singer repeats an old verse and adds a breath of living feeling. He is there when someone says, softly, "This hurt me, so I will warn you before it hurts you too." Forethought can be love in the shape of warning. But warnings are difficult gifts. Zeus does not welcome Prometheus's warning hidden inside defiance. Epimetheus does not fully receive his brother's warning about divine gifts. Humans do not always heed the warning contained in fire itself. Still, warnings matter. Even when ignored, they mark the place where wisdom tried to enter. The myth also asks us to consider what belongs to the gods and what may be shared. In many ancient stories, the boundary between divine and mortal is guarded by food. The gods eat ambrosia and drink nectar. Mortals eat bread, meat, olives, figs, and whatever the difficult earth allows. The gods do not age as humans age. Mortals count years by harvests and funerals. Fire crosses that boundary. It is heavenly in origin, but earthly in use. It lets mortals imitate some divine arts without becoming gods. This imitation is both beautiful and dangerous. A human smith is not Hephaestus, yet the smith's hammer rings with a small echo of divine craft. A human poet is not Apollo, yet song rises with something of sacred breath. A human judge is not Zeus, yet justice attempts to speak in mortal halls. A human weaver is not Athena, yet pattern and patience meet under human fingers. Fire makes such echoes stronger. It gives mortals a share not in immortality, but in making. To make is to enter risk. A made thing can fail, a pot can crack, a ship can sink, a law can become cruel, a song can be forgotten, a weapon can turn against the hand that forged it. Yet without making, human life remains at the mercy of weather and tooth. Prometheus chooses the risky dignity of makers over the safer helplessness of creatures who only endure. That choice still glows. It glows in every workshop where someone begins again after failure. It glows in every kitchen where plain ingredients become food for another person. It glows in every quiet repair, every candle lit for remembrance, every lamp left on for someone coming home late. Not all fire is grand. Most of it is domestic, humble, and easily overlooked. But the overlooked flame is often the one that keeps life possible. The old Greeks would have understood this. Their world was full of altars, hearths, oil lamps, and seasonal fires. They knew smoke in the hair, soot on the wall, charcoal on the hand. They knew that a flame is alive only while it is dying into what feeds it. Fire is transformation made visible. Wood becomes heat. Oil becomes light, grain becomes bread, ore becomes metal, offering becomes smoke, evening becomes story. Prometheus gives humans transformation, and transformation means that nothing remains innocent in the old way. Once grain can become bread, hunger changes. Once clay can become a jar, storage changes. Once ore can become a blade, power changes. Once darkness can become a room of light, fear changes. The gift moves through everything, touching not only objects but relationships. People who gather around fire must learn to share space. Too close, and one burns. Too far, and one freezes. The circle teaches distance and nearness at once. It teaches patience, because coals cannot be rushed without smoke. It teaches attention, because neglect has consequences. It teaches humility, because even the clever hand depends on fuel, air, and conditions it did not create. In this sense, the hearth is a small school. Its lessons are slow. It says, feed what feeds you, watch what can harm you, share warmth. Do not waste the fuel gathered with effort. Do not mistake brightness for goodness. Do not leave sparks where dry grass waits. Remember that every comfort has a keeper. Perhaps Prometheus hoped humans would learn these lessons. Perhaps he knew they would learn them badly, then better, then badly again. Foresight is not the fantasy that the future will be pure. It is the courage to plant a gift in imperfect soil, because without it, nothing tender can grow. So when you imagine him descending with a fennel stalk, do not imagine a naive hope. Imagine a sorrowful hope, a hope that already knows the cost. He's not a child stealing sweets from a table. He is an ancient mind carrying a dangerous mercy. The coal glows in the hollow stem, and in that glow he may already see the mountain, the chain, the eagle's shadow, and Herakles far away beyond generations. Still, he descends. That is the heart of the tale. Not ignorance of pain, but generosity in spite of it. The night honors that kind of courage quietly. It does not ask us to become titans. It only asks us to notice the small ways we can tend warmth rather than cold. A patient word, a repaired trust, a shared meal, a warning given kindly, a light left on. These are not the theft of heavenly fire, but they belong to its family. And as the story settles, the scale of it can grow smaller and kinder, from Olympos to a hearth, from thunder to breathing, from the Caucasus to a pillow, from divine anger to the simple fact that you are allowed to rest. The myth has carried the great weight for a while, and now it can lay that weight down. Let Prometheus keep watch over the distant edge of the dream, not as a figure of torment now, but as a patient guardian of the ember. Let Zeus's thunder move far beyond the hills, too distant to trouble sleep. Let Pandora's hope be set beside the bed like a covered lamp. Let Eo's road become a silver line under moonlight. Let Herakles' footsteps fade into the valley after the work is done. All is quiet enough. One more image, soft as ash. A shepherd on a hillside cups flame from an old coal and lights a little twist of dry grass. The sheep settle nearby, pale shapes under the moon. The shepherd does not speak the name Prometheus. He may not know it, yet the gift is with him. It is in the way he warms his hands, in the way he sees the eyes of animals at the edge of the dark, in the way he waits for morning without being swallowed by night. Another image. A woman kneads dough before dawn. The house is quiet. The fire is not yet bright, only a low bed of coals. She bends, breathes, adds a little wood, and the flame returns. Soon bread will rise and bake. Others will wake to the smell and think the world ordinary. but ordinary is often the name we give to miracles that have stayed with us long enough to become trusted. Another. A child asks why flame moves as if alive. An elder answers with a story of the Titan who loved mortals, of the fennel stalk and the mountain, of Zeus and the eagle, of Herakles and release. The child listens, eyes heavy, half afraid and half comforted. The flame bends, straightens, bends again. In that moment, knowledge passes without a school, without a tablet, without a decree. It passes by warmth and voice. This is how myths survive. Not as dead ornaments, but as embers transferred from one shelter to another. Each teller changes the angle of light. Each listener brings a different darkness. The core remains. Someone suffered to bring warmth, and now warmth asks to be used with care. If sleep is near, you do not need to hold every detail. Let the names blur gently. Let Olympos become a pale height behind cloud. Let Mecone become a smoky field where a choice was made. Let the fennel stalk become a little lantern in the hand. Let Pandora's jar become a deep vessel with hope resting quietly at the bottom. Let the Caucasus become a dark outline against the stars. Let Herakles become footsteps arriving after a very long wait. The mind can release the rest. It can release the arguments of gods. It can release the measuring of blame. It can release the sharp edges of punishment. It can keep only the useful warmth, the way ash keeps a coal hidden until morning. You are allowed to be only a listener now. You are allowed to receive the story without carrying all of it. You are allowed to let ancient sorrow become distant and ancient fire become near. You are allowed to rest beside what has been given. The ember lowers. Its red becomes darker. Its gold becomes a thin line. Around it, ash gathers like soft grey snow. Yet inside, warmth remains, quiet and real. That is the lesson the night chooses to keep. Not blaze, not conquest, not punishment. Warmth remaining. The mountain keeps its old silence. The gods fade into cloud. The valleys sleep. And somewhere beyond the reach of thunder, Prometheus is remembered not only for pain, but for the first compassionate spark. Rest now. The mountain keeps watch. The ember remembers. The story dims into sleep. Good evening, and welcome back, one last time, to the slow, gentle work of letting the story rest. Get cozy, settle in, and let us begin the long lowering of the lamp. The tale of Prometheus has been carried by many tongues across the ages, by shepherds beside their small fires, by smiths who knew that warmth was a gift, by old men who understood that some debts are paid across centuries. In the beginning, before any of these tellings, there was only a quieter rumour of the stolen fire and the long vigil, a feeling that compassion could outlast even chains, and that a single spark given against the will of power could become the slow inheritance of every hearth. The old poets later gave it names. They gave it Prometheus, Epimetheus, Pandora at her jar, and the high crag where the eagle returned. They gave it the long stillness in which it now rests. But that is a story for another day. For now, remember this. Tonight, the work of the tale is done. It simply was, like all old stories, the carrying of the first compassionate spark through the long inheritance of nights. Let the names settle. Let the room settle. Let the night gather you up. Imagine the high crag of Caucasus far behind you, the long vigil and the patient ember no longer pressing on your thoughts. In your mind, reach back and close an invisible door to the mountain, feeling it move on silent hinges, sealing the stolen fire, the bound Titan, and the slow keeping of stone in calm and order. Then see a single candle, its flame steady in the darkness. With a slow, gentle breath, blow that candle out and let the last curl of light fade into the night. Rest well, sleep deeply, and let the ancient stories carry you into the night.